Amy, let me tell you about a magical place that is so exactly designed to be enclosed space, year-round fun for the whole family that I bet you already know what I'm going to say before I even say the name. Let's say it together on 3. 1, 2, 3. Great Wolf Lodge. You got it, Amy.
My kids loved Great Wolf Lodge when we went. You probably already know that it has a huge indoor water park with a wave pool, lazy river, a bunch of massive water slides. But then your pack can hit the other attractions because wait, there's more.
Great Wolf Lodge has adventure-packed attractions like Magi Quest, a live-action game kids can play throughout the lodge, plus the Northern Lights Arcade. Spent some quality time there, so your kid who loves the lazy river and your kid who loves fantasy games will both have a great time.
Great Wolf Lodge also offers great dining options and complimentary daily events like nightly dance parties, all under one roof. Unpack the car once and you're settled in to have fun. And with 22 lodges across the country, you're always a short drive away from adventure.
We've both had such great times at Great Wolf Lodge, so bring your pack together at a lodge near you. Learn more at greatwolf.com and strengthen the pack. What is the statute of limitations on this crime?
What fresh hell?
Laughing in the face of motherhood.
Sometimes the omelet pan gets done.
With Margaret Abels
and Amy Wilson.
I'm bored. We never do anything fun.
A podcast that solves today's parenting dilemmas
so you don't have to.
Mom, you make seriously everything worse.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to What Fresh Hell, Laughing in the Face of Motherhood. This is Margaret.
And this is Amy. And today we're going to talk about changing the stories we tell ourselves, which we talk about kind of a fair amount, but I thought time to really circle this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With the red pen.
Yeah, let's dig in. Deep dive.
Let's dig in. This idea came from a listener via mailbag. Should we start with mailbag?
Always.
Oh, yes. Wait a minute. Time for mailbag. Wait. Check the mailbag.
Or whenever we have one. Not always.
Right. Well, we do. This week, Hadley sent us an Instagram message. She listened to We Caught Our Spouses Being Awesome. We'll link to that one in the show notes. And she wrote in to say, you guys are the best. This is a feel good, Margaret. Get ready. You guys are the best.
Oh, I'm ready. I'm soaking in it.
Hadley says, it feels good to listen to you and the listeners share their frustrations. It makes me feel less alone and more heard and seen. But Margaret's whole watch your story thing is such good advice. This episode shows you gals really want us happy and healthy. I adore you. So smart, so funny, such good moms. Thank you, Hadley.
Huge if true, Amy. I love it.
Yeah, huge if true.
I love the name Hadley, first of all. Love it. And I really appreciate the feedback. That gave me my feel goods, my good feels for the morning. I was just thinking about this. I just took my kids on our first overseas vacation. We went for 6 days. This is what happened. We were looking at camps for our kids, and camps are, maybe it's just New York, but they're so expensive. I now have 3 kids, and it was going to be like ninja training. It wasn't like, I don't know. It wasn't like practical skills or learning something. It was just, I don't know, silly camp.
It was like go goof around with peers. Yeah.
Yeah, like $1,000 a week. And I kept saying to my husband, we could take our kids to France for how much we're spending on this. And then finally, after 6 days of saying it, I said, let's just bail on all the rest of our summer plans and do 1 week in France. And so we went to Paris for 3 days and London for 3 days with my 3 kids. And I found myself, as I started crazy planning this trip, as my kids' first time out of the country. And oh my gosh, it was going to be amazing. And one of my kids is studying French. That this story started to become, this will be the world's most perfect trip ever to France. It was expensive. There was a lot of pressure on it. And it was such a good watch my story because many people gave me the good advice. You may have been one of them, to say, just the fact you're there is a win. And so try to see one thing a day. But my kids there were 2 days where my kids sat in the hotel room and watched like weirdo British TV with like, I don't know, men pretending to be pirates and some weird show that they got into. And that was fine too. And I needed to like check my story of like, they will I don't know what, like have the most amazing time of their, well, it was just going to be like perfect. It was going to be perfectly planned. It was going to be completely different than our regular lives. They weren't, of course, going to spend any time on screens. We were going to make the most of every minute. And in fact, so here's the perfect example. We're on the double-decker tour bus taking the tour around Paris where you see all the sights. We're driving down the Champs-Élysées coming up to the Arc de Triomphe, the famous like site as you come up the street. And my kids look out the side and they realize there's a Stranger Things store on the Champs-Élysées. It's like a pop-up store that sells Stranger Things merchandise. I believe there was one in New York City. I was going to say about 40 minutes.
Readily available, yeah, in the United States on the internet.
Right. We had randomly hooked up with friends who were also there. So my kids, it was 5 of us, my 3 kids and their 2 friends. And they went insane. And all they cared about in the world was the Stranger Things store. But my story was like, we are here to see France. So I said,
minute for minute, this must be the most meaningful week we've ever had.
And like, of course, we're not going to the Stranger Things store because we are here.
Even French.
To learn about France and to like behold the Mona Lisa in all of its glory, right? And luckily, my husband and my friend who had run into were like, let's let them go. So we get off the bus heading for the Arc de Triomphe. And instead, we're now standing in a 1-hour line to get into the Stranger Things store to buy very expensive Stranger Things merchandise, which has nothing to do with France. And I will say, my kids had the time of their lives. They were so excited. They loved it. And it involved changing my story about what the perfect vacation looked like because they do talk about that. Like when we're like, we now have to say, what's your favorite thing we did on vacation that wasn't the Stranger Things store? Because that was their favorite part. And for me, that's wrong, right? That's not right. That's not what we went for. But we randomly ran into friends of theirs and went to this store that was like, they had recreations of all the scenes. I've never even watched Stranger Things. And they just were super into it and they loved it. And it made the entire experience memorable and great. But my story would have been, we shouldn't go.
If you stayed on your story of minute for minute, this must be the most meaningful thing that's ever happened, then you would have had a fight with your kids in order to try to create something better. You would have ended up creating something less good.
Yeah. And I legit wouldn't have let them go because I would have said, who needs to go to the Stranger Things store? We're in Paris. We're supposed to be looking at Paris stuff. And that would have been the wrong instinct. My story was leading me astray.
I wanted to break down like the stories we tell ourselves. I feel like we throw this around a lot, but like, what does it mean actually, right? Like, what do we mean when we say story? Like, what do we mean when we tell ourselves? Like, what is this all about? So I got some good biological imperative stuff for you. This is...
Oh, lay it on me, Amy.
This is a story I like to tell myself that there's biological imperative for stuff. So a story, like...
I believe that story is true.
A story, we can just say a story is or events that haven't happened yet, but they could. So before you went to France, you were like, this is how France is going to go. That was a story you were telling yourself, right? Like berets and baguettes and a new appreciation of the finer things. That was how France was going to go. And then when it departs from the narrative, you get concerned. So
yes,
this writer, Carl Alviani, I'll put the link in the show notes. He wrote a really fascinating sort of breakdown of why he argues that stories, our instinct for stories as humans is a biological imperative.
Okay.
And it's because of this. He says, I'm going to quote him here. He says, humans don't have sharp fangs or thick hides or blinding speed. Our evolutionary advantage has always been our ability to solve problems. And in particular, our ability to solve problems as a group, to cooperate creatively at a large scale. So in order for us to survive as a group, we have to make the individual want to behave in a way that benefits the entire group. So we have to agree as a group on what our story is. We all have to be moving towards the same thing. You can't be like trying to kill a lion over there and I'm trying to kill a lion over here. We have to together kill the same lion because it matters. So we have to agree. So that's where stories come in. You have to see that your neighbor's welfare is tied up with your own welfare and that we are contributing to something together. So that's why we make stories. They help us survive.
Got it.
They stick us together, right? So a story, he says, links an idea to your ego and it makes it sticky. So you'll remember its lessons. Like a good story is sticky. A good story, you'll carry it with you. Like, don't fly too close to the sun or whatever the story is. So you remember the lesson. And the more the hero of the story is like you, the more likely you are to remember it and the stickier that it is, the more you recognize yourself in the story that's being told. So that's why we have stories. So stories help us survive as a group of people and not all just do our own thing all the time.
Okay.
Right.
I believe this so far, yes.
So, but then the problem is our brains start to seek stories everywhere we go and create stories where in fact none exists.
Yes, this makes sense.
Yeah, it's a little bit less applicable to France has to be perfect than I'm the only one who ever does anything around here, right? Like that kind of story, right? Our brains are wired for story. Our brains try to connect the dots where they don't really have to be. There's just dots. They don't have to be connected at all. But our brains like story. Stories help us survive. So our brain tries to find a story, right?
Okay, this is super interesting. Yep.
So there's another guy named Kendall Haven. I'll link to his stuff as well. He studies the science of storytelling. And he says that in order for what's happening around us to make sense to our brains, we will make up stories. And in order to have the story work, our brains are willing to make assumptions, connect, dots without reason to do so, change facts, reverse facts, make up facts, and, maybe most importantly, ignore the things that don't fit the story that your brain is trying to create.
Yeah.
So like if your kid I'm trying to enter the story of your kid for a second. If your kid the next day is standing in a long line to do something you wanted to do, to see the Mona Lisa, your kid's story is maybe mom never lets me do anything fun, right? Mom is the worst, always and never lets me do anything fun, conveniently leaving out the point that you went to the Stranger Things store for like an hour and a half the day before, that we're willing to throw things overboard.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I had a kid on this trip who was like, I'm not going to be able to find anything I like to eat. And then ate like a king for 4 straight days. And then we went somewhere for like a little dessert stand and they don't like crepes and everyone was enjoying the crepes. And he really said, I told you I wasn't going to be able to find anything I like to eat. Because like on day 4, there was one time where he couldn't find anything to eat. So yes.
Mouthful of bechamel sauce. He's like, I told you, this place is terrible.
Yeah. Well, he didn't want to eat the crepes. So it was like destiny fulfilled, and that's why we say be careful of your story, right? Because part of it is that it becomes the self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Like if the story is, I won't find anything I like to eat on this trip, then you're waiting for that penny to drop the whole time. You can't let go of that story, right? You have to see that story fulfilled.
And it's exceedingly easy, isn't it, to see it in our kids, like this camp will be boring, or you always make me do stuff I don't want to do. Like it is very easy to see the oversimplification in somebody else's story, but
yeah. Or I'm the only one who knows how to load the dishwasher, or I'm the only one who does anything around here in our own stories.
There's a story I'm thinking of, like my husband's story is he dries the dishes. He's getting better at doing the dishes. Like sometimes the omelet pan gets done, guys.
Was it the national shaming that he's received on our social media feeds?
Yes. I recommend starting a podcast, having it run for 5-6 years, and then enough people will come up to you and be like, so what's the deal with that omelet pan? Yeah. And it'll affect change. Yeah.
Why can't you just clean the omelet pan? All right. Huge. You've got a new plan for us all.
So the story has moved slightly from leaving an omelet pan to soak for later is the best way to clean an omelet pan, which I disagree with that story. It's moved to,
sure,
now that the kids are all home over the summer and we're kind of, cooking dinner on weeknights and kind of hanging out, there's a little bit less of a frantic pace. So people are participating in the meal prep and in the cleanup a little more than usual. But anyway, the new story I've noticed is that you can dry everything, but then it all has to be left on the counter, every pot, pan, colander, and, weird spoon, because you know where it goes and I don't, right? Like only mom knows where this stuff goes. So it all just has to be left out on the counter until there's like nowhere to put anything because everything is out on the counter.
Okay, I have a curious question for you. This is said with no judgment, but I want to know your truth. Is it true that you would normally complain that things were put away incorrectly, or is it 100% just like they're like, oh, mom knows where to do it? That's a total falsehood.
I swear to God, it is number 2. I was like, what do you mean? Like the pots and pans go like, well, I don't know where they go. I'm like, you open a drawer, see if there might be some other pans in there, and then just shove them in there. Like, I am very detached from what goes where.
So their story is wrong. Okay.
Yes. You might think, right, that I am like, lids go here, organized by size and type. No, I'm really not. And
okay. So it really is just that they're like, I'm done. Right. My husband and I have this, and I'm much more at fault than he is. laundry is done when the clothes are folded and put away. Like that's our problem is always like, oh, the laundry's done because it's dry in the dryer. It's like, whoa, that's not done.
Right. That's like,
there's like 4 steps left. Yeah.
45% of the way there. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not even the halfway point.
But I don't know how to fold the towels. Like, you know how to fold the towels. Like, no, but that doesn't mean no, you can't fold the towels or they can't. Right. We're kind of moving to that now. Like, I'll participate some, but then really only you know how to do it. And then as I angrily shove the pots and pans into these, doors that can't really accommodate the number of pots and pans we have, because that's how we are. We live in a house with too many pots and pans. I do revert to the story of, once again, I am the only one who ever does anything around here, even though my teenagers like washed, dried, and then just, kind of pooped out and left the pots on the counter. But they got it most of the way there. That's still better than it was. But we're both stuck in our story of, well, I can't finish because mom will think it's wrong, and me thinking I never get any help around here. Both aren't totally true.
I think we're landing on a key aspect of the story, and I'm going to pick it up as soon as we get back.
Okay.
Hellions, it's time for some spring cleaning, and I don't just mean the coat closets. Doing your financial spring cleaning can actually be super easy when you let Monarch do your financial spring cleaning for you. One dashboard that gets your entire financial life organized. No more clutter, no more mess, no more logins scattered everywhere, just accounts, investments, property, and more, all in one place. Get your first year of Monarch for half off, just $50 with promo code FRESH. Monarch allows you to look not only at what you've already spent, but also to plan for the future. With Monarch, you can set savings goals, plan for big purchases, and notice spending trends before they become a problem. I can generate cash flow reports that show me what we spent this quarter, this month, what we're probably going to spend next month, and feel prepared, organized, and knowing how to plan for the future. No more surprises and a lot more clarity. Try Monarch. Use code FRESH at monarch.com to get your first year half off at just $50. That's 50% off your first year at monarch.com with code FRESH. My favorite skincare products actually feel more like self-care, like they're so nice to put on and they smell so good that I'm actually happy when I get to that part of my day. And I swear that is how I feel about Osea's anti-aging body balm.
Amy, you are usually the lotions and potions queen on this podcast, but I have to say, hard agree.
Osea's anti-aging body balm is a liquid silk body balm that combines the lasting hydration of a lotion with the firming power of a serum, leaving skin smoother and firmer.
This body balm is clinically tested and designed to deliver visible results you can see and feel.
So we've gotten to use this product for a couple of months now, and I swear I have really noticed firmer and smoother skin, like on the back of my hands. It's like getting a mini spa treatment from head to toe.
Get a spring-worthy glow with clean, clinically tested skincare from Osea. And right now, we have a special discount just for our listeners.
Get 10% off your first order site-wide with code FRESH at OseaMalibu.com.
That's 10% off your first order with code FRESH at OSEAMalibu.com.
All my kids learned to swim when they were little. It was super important to me that they be confident and safe in the water. There was only one problem with that, taking them to swim lessons. I mean, the pools were freezing. There were always cranky adults doing laps right there. And it was definitely not, for any of us, what you would call fun.
Amy, heard. But now there's Goldfish Swim School. Goldfish takes a really thoughtful approach to swim lessons, combining research-based teaching with a warm, kid-friendly environment that actually helps kids thrive in the water.
Every detail at Goldfish is thoughtfully designed to create a golden experience, from shiver-free, warm indoor pools to comfy waiting areas for parents to professionally trained lifeguards on deck.
Goldfish uses an approach called the science of swim play, which combines guided play with proven teaching techniques to help kids learn to swim, build water safety skills, and gain confidence all at their own pace. Lessons are designed to meet kids exactly where they're at.
If you've been thinking about swim lessons or just wondering where to start, this is a great opportunity. Right now, Goldfish Swim School is offering a waived membership plus your child's first lesson free at participating locations.
Just visit goldfishswimschool.com/free to find a location near you and enroll using promo code FREE.
That's goldfishswimschool.com/free, promo code FREE.
Talking about like, this is their point of view, this is my point of view. The thing I think that we insert in story, and my husband is really good about this and has helped me with this is that we insert motive into our stories about other people, that we assume that other people have an agenda that relates to us that is often bonkers.
Okay. Tell me more about this.
So my husband leaves his dirty socks on the bathroom floor, not because he took off his socks to take a shower and that's just where he left them and where he's used to leaving them. He took those off to signal to me that he is blind to all the work I do in the household. He took them off directly trying to disrespect me and my role in the house because he no longer sees me as the beloved, sexy girlfriend love of his life. He now sees me as like the Irish washerwoman who lives to pick up other people's things and works for everybody in the house.
Yeah. I mean, kind of, yes, that is not his intent, but that is the story you tell yourself, that his action had an intent behind it.
Yeah. And I do think that we have in a number of discussions on the podcast.
We talked to Matthew Frey
about him coming from the husband's point of view on this and saying, you know, that his marriage ended because his wife kept saying to him, this is important to me. And him saying, they're just socks. And then eventually she's like, I don't care if they're just socks. I'm leaving you, basically. And I do think it doesn't mean that it's okay for the socks to be there. It doesn't mean that it's not disrespectful for the socks to be there. But I do think that when the story becomes, this is all being done to me out of disrespect, you've got a little bit of a problem with your story.
So there's this idea called cognitive mediation. That is what this is all about. So let's dork out on this for a second. So cognitive mediation, this psychologist named Richard Lazarus kind of came up with it in the 20th century. And he was explaining for the first time that there is something that happens in between something that happens to you and your reaction to it. And we've kind of talked about this before, like the snake in the yard is going to affect you very differently if you're in the yard with the snake than if you're in the kitchen looking out the window at the person in the yard with the snake, right? You'll have a different reaction. But that the snake causes a reaction in you, but that reaction is caused by your thoughts. Like there's something that happens in the middle that he calls appraisal. So that when you see the socks on the floor give you a thought. You appraise them. You appraise them as like, these have an intention behind them. This means to me that my spouse doesn't think my time is as valuable as his is. And that causes your emotion, right? It's like the socks on the floor aren't making you mad. It's your thoughts about the socks on the floor that are making you mad. And I think that's just a more fancy scientific way of saying that's a story you tell yourself. It's something you're sliding in between. You're adding it to the sock and it's causing the anger. So therefore, if you want to not be angry about the socks, you have to accept that there is a middle step there happening. It's your appraisal of it. Right.
And just to be clear, it doesn't mean that like, just accept the socks because it's all in your head. It's not. It's saying like, hey, it's being able to have the conversation that says, when you leave the socks on the floor, I feel like you're expecting me to pick them up. And so there's a disconnect because you're leaving the socks on the floor because you're getting into the shower and you just don't think to put them in the hamper. But here's how it's affecting me. You need to close that loop together, the two of you, because I mean, the other thing that I think is very important to story is that we are all the central character in our own story.
Yeah.
And that other people's role in our story. I mean, everyone's had this experience, right? Where someone said to them, I could tell when you did X that you were trying to send me this message. And you think to yourself, I barely know who you are. Like, what?
Right.
What are you talking about? Like, you have suddenly become the antagonist to a protagonist that you've never even thought about, right? That like someone tells you when you did X, it affected me in this way. And you just think, oh my God. I mean, I was doing X because I had to get my kid to soccer. Right.
I was running late. I was thinking about something else. I had had a bad day. Right. The reason I didn't say hi to you was not that I think less of you than other people. Right. I see what you're saying.
Right. That like the centrality of ourselves and our own story is often misleading, right? That you see other people as characters in your own story. But other people actually have their own stories going on in which you may not even play a role. You may not even be a character in their story.
Well, think about it. Like your husband comes out of the shower, sees those socks on the floor, and his appraisal of those is like, those socks are on the floor and I'm late for a Zoom that starts in 5 minutes. But if I don't pick up those socks, I'm going to hear about it later because somebody is always looking for the negative around here. And right. And then so the socks mean something completely different to somebody else. And P.S., they're not entirely wrong. Like the Gottman Institute does a lot of marriage counseling. And the thing that they talk about all the time that I have a really hard time with is that two things are true, that in a disagreement between partners, there is 99.9% of the time two valid points of view.
Yeah, that's tricky.
If it isn't, you shouldn't have stolen money from me. It's usually, it's like, you don't listen to me. Will you do this? Will you do this? That those are two valid points of view, two stories that are being told. Neither is perfectly true, but neither is perfectly false.
Right.
And that's where we get stuck.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And I think this has been a revelation of my older years a little bit, the idea of like, my husband talks about in business, right? That like, if you ask, 10 people at a company, like, what does this company need? Like the chauffeur of the company is going to be like, this company needs one thing. It's better cars. And then the secretary is like, we need more updated computers. That's the one thing this company needs, right? And then the chef at the company is like, the one thing this company needs is better cookware. Like everybody has their own reality and their own story. And in having just traveled with a big group, it's like everybody's sort of like, well, what I need is, to sleep in. Well, what I need is to get to that. Like it's hard to find center when you've got 7 legit stories going on. And understanding that you are the baker and someone else is the chauffeur and that both of your truths are true is so challenging.
Can we talk about taking things personally? Because I feel like that's something I struggle with.
Oh, let's. I'm great at it.
And I think it's related to this. Like I figured that out doing the research for this episode. So I've often been told in my life that I should stop taking things personally. And I hate when people tell me that.
It's a very annoying thing to hear, yes.
Yeah, because it's often in response to if one of my kids says to me like, Mom, why do you make everything worse all the time? And then I'm told I'm not supposed to take that personally. Like, it was intended personally. I'm not really sure. Like, I'm not imagining that my kids said something negative about me. They just said so. So how else are you supposed to take it but personally, right? So I get stuck in that. And I think I get stuck in, no, that story's wrong. And let me show you why your story is wrong, actually. Let me correct that clearly incorrect story, at least from where I stand. But even if you're resisting the story, you're accepting it. And I guess that means taking things personally, that you're looking at somebody else's story and saying, that's not true. Well, of course it's not true. It's not your story. It's their story. And I think maybe getting stuck there is where I'm having a problem, like being too concerned about the stories other people tell themselves and what my role might be in those. Like,
yes,
I hope in your story, I'm the fairy princess, right? Because I'm the fairy princess in my story. So I should be in yours as well.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of stuff going on there. One is that we want to be the hero in our own story and everyone else's story. So when we lose that footing, it's painful for us.
Right.
But that sometimes gets in the way of learning, right? That, we've talked about this with people talking about anti-racism, for example, that like, as long as you're coming into the story of like trying to understand and unpack some stuff around racism, that if you're too busy holding on to the shield of like, but I'm a great person, I'm not part of the problem, I'm part, it gets in the way of learning some things if you're too busy holding on to the story of like, I already get it, I'm great at it, and I'm never going to make a mistake. I didn't mean it right.
Or I didn't mean it like that. Like, make sure you correct my perception of you and your story. Right.
Right. That like the most important thing about this work is everyone understanding that I'm a good person. Right. And that story, I think, is something that happens with our kids or our in-laws or our parents is like, and sometimes my kids do say, at the end of a European vacation that like we saved for months to be like, I'm bored. We never do anything fun. Like, am I supposed to let that lie and be like, you're right, kid. Well, that's your story and that's fun. Like, no. But actually screaming at them like, I just took you on an expensive vacation doesn't go well either. It's complicated. It's hard.
I have something that I think might help. There's a psychologist. His name is Nick Wignall. And so he says, when you're taking things personally, he says that you're valuing other people's opinions or stories too much and your own not enough. So if you're taking things personally, what he's suggesting that you change is when you're criticized, you tell yourself a story right then. And that's the story you want to pay attention to. Pay attention to the story you tell yourself when somebody criticizes you.
All right, give me an example though. What's the story you tell yourself?
Well, I think it would be that when my kid says to me, Mom, you make seriously everything worse, that my child actually means that. And I need to disabuse my child of that notion lest we grow up to never speak to each other again, as opposed to I have a teenager who's blowing off steam for this 30 seconds.
Oh, I'm not good at that.
Right. Or that my response to that is to make sure that they understand that I'm actually perfect, right? Or that I'm actually blameless in the story that they have set up. I think that I need to do that. That's the story I need to tell myself. I need to rescue myself from their like completely quicksilver, momentary, lowered opinion of me, which is, and if I'm the safest place to put their frustration, I need to let that go. I need to not feel like I need to correct that, even if it upsets me. Like I get stuck on the don't let it bother you. Well, it does bother me. It was actually intended to bother me. So how can I not let it bother me? Well, I cannot let myself feel that I'm not worthy in exchange to, an offhanded comment from somebody who's having a bad day.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think in general that your story can't really live outside yourself, right? At a certain point, you have to understand and be comfortable with your own choices so that anyone coming along and saying, your podcast stinks, you're ugly, you look old, you're a bad mom, that like you can't hand your story to every single person who walks by. And I think when we started the podcast, we were a little bit like, oh, this one reviewer said this one thing and I say like too much and I have to train myself out of it. It's a little bit like, it's a little bit like, or maybe this isn't the right show for that person. And like, we can't be everything to everybody and not everybody's gonna dig you. Because you're, I don't know. It's tricky. But obviously with your kids, it's a little bit different. Like you don't want your kids to see you. You want to be a good part of your kid's story, but you can't be every day. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think they're on their own journey. And what I want to talk about after the break is I think it's not about not telling ourselves stories, but to be more careful about curating the stories we tell ourselves. Like the solution to changing the stories we tell ourselves is not don't tell yourself stories, but tell yourself good ones. Tell yourself one that help you instead of ones that don't.
All right, we'll be right back.
Amy, when I'm having a good hair day, it usually makes my whole day better. And that's why on every day, I'm taking Nutrafol.
Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand, and it's the #1 hair growth supplement brand personally used by dermatologists. Nutrafol's hair growth supplements are peer-reviewed, NSF certified for sport, and clinically tested.
Nutrafol offers multiple formulas for men and women tailored to different life stages and lifestyle factors, so you get support that's actually right for you. Adding Nutrafol to your daily routine is easy. Order online, no prescription needed, with automated deliveries and free shipping to keep you on track.
Let your hair be one less thing to worry about. See visibly thicker, stronger, faster-growing hair in 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol.
For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you visit Nutrafol.com and enter promo code LAUGHING.
That's Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code LAUGHING.
You know that thing where you get an amazing pair of shoes at a really great price and want to tell everyone about it? Yeah, so do we. Here at Designer Shoe Warehouse, we'll give you something to brag about, like the latest styles from brands you love, or the trends everyone's obsessing over, or shoes that make you feel like, well, you. So go ahead, show off a little. Find shoes that get you at prices that get your budget. Head to your DSW store or DSW.com today. DSW, let us surprise you.
And now, what type of car mom are you?
From the What Fresh Hell podcast, the camp counselor.
All right, kids, that was a great game of I Spy. Next up, let's all play the license plate game. The music historian.
How dare you? This is not old people's music. This is a seminal 90s R&B classic, Just Kickin' It by Escape. They are sometimes referred to as the hip-hop version of En Vogue. They were discovered by Jermaine Dupri and went on to have hits like The Professional,
In you go, kids. We've got 7:45 a.m. drop-off at swim team, and then we'll be right on time for our 8:02 drop-off at the baseball field. Then swing by the Browns, drop off Henry, pick up Christy. As long as the left turn lane on Maple isn't blocked, we'll be right on time for 8:30 at the Girl Scouts. The karaoke queen.
Oh my God, kids, here comes the key change. You're here, there's nothing I fear. I believe that my heart will go on. The cars are my time for heartfelt talks, Mom.
So listen, guys, how's it going? How are the friendships? Who's feeling peer pressure, huh? I just want you to know, like my kids know, I am always an askable person. Any questions, no topic off limits. Any questions about sexually transmitted diseases, friends? Anyone?
This is Ben. What type of car mom are you?
From the What Fresh Hell podcast. All right, Amy, how are we doing stories? Tell me.
We're changing them. This is an Esther Perel idea, but it really blew my mind. I'm like, right, okay, it isn't always understand exactly what's happening as the truth and don't read anything into anything. It's just pick better stories for yourself. So she says, you know Esther Perel, right? With her beautiful accent. Oh, she is a relationship expert. I won't do her accent for you, but I'll put the link to the YouTube video. She's just lovely and relaxing and just like kind of like a Sophia Loren of relationships.
It sounds winning.
So yes. So she suggests that stories are adaptive, that they're how we survive. And you tell yourself a story to get through a moment. Like, think about this, like a dog bites you and the story that you tell yourself in that moment is like, I'm in danger, right? But then the next time you see a dog might come up to you with its tail wagging and you're still kind of freaking out that dogs are dangerous, even though this dog isn't dangerous because you've had a previous experience. So it isn't even like your story was always false. It maybe was once true, but it's not true now, or it's not true in this situation, or it's not true anymore. Like, that you don't ever have any time to do anything for yourself. That was definitely true when the twins were 18 months, but now they're 7. That your stories change over time and you don't actually adapt them, and that you perhaps should.
Oh, let me give you an example of this, which I may have given on the podcast before. My mother, at some point, I believe I was in my mid-30s, and I was drinking soda out of a can. And she said, I don't trust you around cans of soda. Because when I was young, once I pulled the tab off of a can of soda and it got stuck in the dishwasher and broke the dishwasher. And I said, Mother, what is the statute of limitations on this crime? I believe this happened when I was maybe 12, maybe a teenager, but we're looking at least a 20-year span between the time that I did this crime and that I was no longer being trusted to drink soda.
I mean, we're talking like 10 to 15 years outside of the home as an adult drinking soda with no other problems.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. With very little ramifications. But I find that I have a kid, like if you say to me, like, which is your kid who is not responsible? Which is your kid who is responsible? Which is your kid who is a picky eater? Which is your kid who is spacey and can't be trusted to hold stuff? I mean, those are the kind of stories that I think we have to watch with our kids, because I know for myself that I spent a lot of my time in my family of origin in the role of like Goofus, Goofus and Gallant is not even an oldie Lux alert for me back in my day, but it used to be a highlights magazine, like the bad kid and the good kid. But I definitely was the kid who was like Pigpen, the mess, like disorganized, always losing stuff. You can't trust her with things. And at midlife, I still occasionally get tagged that way of like, oh, don't let Meg load the dishwasher. She's crazy. And it's like, okay.
She's crazy with the soda tabs.
I'm very old now. Like, these things are no longer accurate about me. I've been running my own household now for 2-3 decades. So I can load a dishwasher. It's fine.
Yep. And so you change the story and you change the story for yourself. So this is like a hack that we've all seen before. What would you tell your 18-year-old self if you could go back? So Esther Perel in this YouTube video that I was watching suggests like that's what she's asking you to do. That exercise. If you could go back and tell yourself something, how would you change the story for that 18-year-old? For me, it might be like, don't wait for that boy. Go do the thing you wanted to do, right? Don't change your life to suit whoever you're dating in, 1990, whatever, go live your life. That might be
right.
an example. Or, I don't know, believe in yourself, whatever. But we can do the same thing for ourselves now. It's much easier to see with the distance of time, the things that you are getting wrong and misperceiving and your cognitive distortions of a long time ago. But can you apply that same stuff to now? What would you tell yourself? If you could tell yourself that you have a loving spouse who does a ton around the house and is kind of always in a pretty good mood and never gives anybody a hard time, that's the story you tell yourself. You have to be deliberate about it. But if you change it, well, then it helps.
I think there's two things. One is that, right, the story about ourselves. Like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm doing great as a mom. Like those kind of stories. I am enough. This is just a pause. I'm not washed up. Maybe there's something else out there, but for right now, I'm just in a season. Like there's lots of stories we can tell ourselves. And then this flips to our maximum generosity place too, where we try to tell ourselves the best possible story about other people. And this is something that I struggle with because I am very much the star of my own story. And so this person at my kid's school meeting who isn't respecting me enough and doesn't understand my kid like I do is my enemy, right? And so then I go in to have a confrontational story with this person. But I find that I get better results when I can say, our story is two people working for the best outcome for this kid. And so let's be on the same page and figure that out. And my story about my husband who was put on earth to be in my way because he's not as good at running the house as I am, that affects our relationship, and just trying to change the story that I tell about other people. My parent who is over demanding of my time and doesn't understand that I'm busy and it's not all about them. What if the story is this is a person who loves me and misses me and wants more time with me, and how can I accommodate that? Flipping our stories for ourselves, but also flipping our stories towards other people in our lives. Super challenging, but really important.
Yeah. And it's not about being more of a doormat. It's just move through your life with a little more happiness and ease, right? That's the goal. You're not doing this so that you won't be mad that other people take advantage of you. You're doing this so that you feel more happier and peaceful in your daily life because you're not choosing to focus on where you perceive slights. Or maybe you address the slights. Maybe you have a conversation about it. You say to your partner, when you do this, I tell myself the story of X. Maybe it's worth talking about it, but it's also worth changing it.
I think it can be a really easy construct. I think that when you meet up with a friend who you haven't seen and, you have been maybe neglecting their friendship, I think that there can be a room, and this is a little tweet, and it's not exactly how I would have this conversation, but your story can be I think your story is that I don't care about you anymore because I have kids now and that's fulfilling my life. And my story is I am so overwhelmed and I miss our friendship, but I'm just drowning right now in my life. That it can be a helpful way to have conversations with people about, as you were saying, that your truth and my truth can both be true. And that we can respect both of those things and find a solution if we're both being honest about what that looks like. And you're thinking that you want to see the kids, every single day. And my feeling of I'm overwhelmed just having to get the kids dressed to show up for you. Those stories don't match. So what's a solution that we can both find? Or maybe you can say to your husband, your mom's story is that we're neglecting her. My story is that the times that we see her are overwhelming for me for these reasons. How can we make these stories match up a little bit more easily?
Yeah. And there might be a solution, right? The mom comes to visit you more, whatever, right? Once you sort of address, that makes so much sense to me.
And even just telling the mom, it's so great when we get to see you. We value that time so much that you're feeding her story. It makes it easier than just being it's all walls and barricades and sharp sticks pointing outwards and saying we need our own time and these are our boundaries,
I mean, these hacks, they do sound maybe a little tweet, but they can work. I was just talking to one of my kids last night. They have a friend who stutters, but only sometimes. It's sort of in certain circumstances and not others. So this person decided to try hypnotherapy. And it was explained to them that this will be a very long process, but we're going to try to rewire your brain. And it had a long conversation, about 45 minutes, of how this was going to work, that it was going to require probably 6 months and maybe 10 minutes right at the end of repeating a mantra while deeply relaxing over and over again. I am a confident communicator. This person had repeat this like 100 times while under deep relaxation for the first of what were to be, 20, 30 visits. Guess what? It worked. It worked in one visit. The person hasn't had to go back. And they might have to fix their story again, right? They might have to readdress it or whatever, but just rewiring it worked that quickly in this very concrete case, which I thought was amazing.
Yeah, I do think that what you tell yourself, and this is not into the Oprah, the secret manifesting, I don't believe in that stuff, but I do think that what you tell yourself is going to be your reality on some very, very fundamental level.
Right. It's changing the stories about what's already happening in your life. Not
That's right.
I'm going to be a best-selling author and I'm going to manifest it. I mean, do that if you want. But what we're talking about is I'm kind of unhappy. I'm in this, oh my gosh, what does Lynetta Willis call it? Stable misery.
Stable misery, yeah.
If you're in a little bit of stable misery, there might be a story that you can try to rewrite that just makes you a little happier on your Tuesday. And that's worthwhile.
That's right. You're not manifesting a new life. And you're not it doesn't matter that I have, a dread disease because I'm manifesting happiness. It just is small changes of perspective that can make a difference in, as you said, in your Tuesday.
Solved it,
Amy. Love it.
We have a new newsletter. We're going to send it out about once a month. We're not going to be jamming your inbox, but about once a month, we're going to send out links to some of our favorite episodes from the past month, any news as to what Margaret or I might be doing next, news about where you can find us, what we're reading, what we're listening to, what we're watching. And you can go to our website, which is whatfreshhellpodcast.com, and there'll be a little pop-up. You sign up for the newsletter and you'll start getting it.
I like news about where we are. I'm at the grocery store or I'm sitting on my couch watching reality TV. It's not that exciting.
Not getting your hair colored.
Not getting my hair colored. Now,
not
trying to go to the gym, but not going. That's next up. So yeah, check the newsletter for all those exciting updates, friends. And with that, we will talk to you next time.
So long.
Thanks for listening.